and humanity and aliens and oh my gosh, it's so good. And it really is still odd to me. I mean, in the middle of the conversation, Kaczynski comes out and says,
"That's just so much nonsense. You're asking us to believe in magic."
Oh yes, this could seem like magic to you.
No. That actually makes sense to me.
I mean, not even Kaczynski knows barely anything about the Traveler. That's a little fishy to me. But Kaczynski must be really kind of... He does seem kind of mental to me. Mentally retarded. He's such a... He seems delusional. Very delusional, and it's hard to believe that he's in the position that he's in. But, heck, I'm pretty sure there's a lot of lawyers like that today.
Well, what got us here?
Thought.
Thought?
You do understand, don't you, that thought is the basis of all reality. The energy of thought, to put it in your terms, is very powerful.
That's not an explanation.
I have the ability to act like a lens which focuses thought.
I know there's many more points that I want to make, but man, there's just so much to get from this episode. It's such a rich episode. But this next scene here is quite remarkable as far as more stuff going on with Wes. As the Traveler talks to Picard about Wesley, and there are great lines about comparing, about Mozart, and it's just pure. Here we go.
It's Wesley I wanted to speak to you about.
The boy?
It's best you do not repeat this to the others, especially not to the mother. Whatever happens, it is imperative that it proceed naturally.
I must get my ship back. Do we have time for this?
Oh, yes. He and a few like him are why I travel. You have it in your power to encourage him without interfering.
Encourage him in what?
How shall I explain? Are you familiar with the intricacies of what is called here music?
Somewhat.
And such musical geniuses I saw in one of your ship's libraries, one called Mozart, who as a small child wrote astonishing symphonies. A genius who made music not only to be heard, but seen and felt beyond the understanding, the ability of others. Wesley is such a person, not with music, but with the equally lovely intricacies of time, energy, propulsion, and the instruments of this vessel, which allow all that to be played. You're right, I must hurry now. But you're right in something else. He is just a boy for now. He should be encouraged, but told none of this.
You've got to get back home. Take him to main engineering.
Yes, sir.
I'll be on the bridge. Yes, sir.
So, in short, Wesley Crusher is a genius who will, be the next Einstein or something. It really is still amazing. I made this point already in the episode, but it's just amazing how much Picard and everybody didn't, entertain that more than they will, but didn't thus far. Boy, that was a pretty badly constructed sentence I just made there. Constructured, that's not even a word. Ha! So people are still hallucinating all over the ship, combining their reality with their thoughts, and this is something that I find kind of odd, is Picard walks by this guy, and there's this big wall of fire in front of him. But for some reason, Picard can see it too, and I don't really understand how that works. But definitely something to think about. I think it was just a spontaneous, it's not a plot hole or anything, but it's inconsistent with what we saw earlier, most definitely. But for every inconsistency, the Trekkie will make an excuse for it or come up with something creative to explain it philosophically in the context of it being an actual, this isn't just a story. This is actually happening in the confines of science and how things are dictated to us in the universe. We're going to figure out how that works. But anyway, I don't know how that works. So here's a captain's log.
Captain's log. Any time entry is meaningless. We have no choice but to repeat the same warp experiment, but with one variation. A principal part of this warp formula will be the thoughts of everyone aboard the Enterprise. We have no idea exactly how this works. We understand only that the Traveler makes use of this somehow. It will be most important that those aboard avoid random thoughts that might change the reality of what we're attempting to do.
Oh, and here's the great thing that they're about to do. The Traveler is going to be aided by the power of thought. The power of thought that gets the Enterprise home, combined with action. And that's, it's something very interesting. I mean, you look at me doing this podcast, the physical processes I have to get to achieve the goal of putting this podcast out by tomorrow, and I have to fulfill the physical steps necessary to get to that point. And it starts with the human idea, and then you have to initiate that idea through what you have to work with physically that exists. And they're so far out in the galaxy that not even the DNA, not even the construction of the universe is intact. So everything's just loose, and the idea, the human potential for creating reality becomes completely unrestricted in this part of the universe. I'm sorry, I'm breaking up in tears. I love this show so much. My goodness. So what the crew's gonna do is they're gonna simultaneously think and believe that they are going to get home, and by the human will, they are going to do so as they aid the Traveler. So they all prepare to get going back home. And here's something I find very interesting. Kaczynski, kind of an idiot. The specs were a bunch of gibberish that he sent, and Kaczynski doesn't know what he's doing. He's retarded. He's got problems. By the way, here's a tangent. I am not a fan of cop shows. I hate the Law and Orders and CSIs of the world. It's like anything that's on TV anymore is a stupid cop show. But more of a detective show that I really, really enjoy. It's a quality program. Ran from early 2000s to 2009, I believe. It was Monk. It's such a great show, and I completely realized this on my own. The guy who played Dr. Kroger in the earlier episodes of that show, he looked familiar to me, and I thought, you know what, that guy's Kaczynski. I saw Kaczynski in TNG and said that guy looked familiar, and I connected the dots, and said, that's the doctor on Monk, Adrian Monk's doctor. So I looked it up on Wikipedia, and sure enough, I was right. And I don't watch as much TV as a lot of people. It's just a time burner, but unless it's quality like Star Trek, which is my life. But yeah, I thought it's always fun when you see familiar faces like that. But anyway, the Traveler wants Kaczynski on the main computer, and main computer, he's not just pressing buttons to go along with something minimal. He's on the main computer. So Kaczynski has ability to do something clearly, but he just seems so stupid and dumb and delusional that it's hard for me to believe that Kaczynski needed him to be on the computer, which also is interesting to me. So I don't know. It's just an insight, I suppose. Nothing really more to delve into there or connect. But anyway, nevertheless, the whole crew, it's just such a great moment as they get home and human will gets them through it. And Troy has one of her great lines where she talks about, it's just a TNG feel-good moment with Troy. I love it so much, ladies and gentlemen. And, I am feeling an abundance of love and peace and joy and harmony and wonderfulness.
I feel such an abundance of well-being on the ship. It feels like quite wonderful.
Don't you love Troy's accent? Marina Sirtis really was creative with that accent. It really sounded original. I've never heard that accent before,
Engineering to bridge. We're ready.
On my order, Mr. Data, Mr. LaForge. Engage.
So the Enterprise comes to an all-stop, and they've made it home. They're back in their own galaxy, and the Traveler has faded out. He's sacrificed all of his energy into getting them home, that the universe cannot contain him in the consistency of that, so then he's forced to that. I think that's what's going on. That's my theory. There's so much interpretation you can get out of this, and so the Traveler is then, he fades into another reality, And then once he breaks the rules of that, it keeps going on like that. So it's just